Hello everyone, Kevin Gooch here. Thank you for your time today. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the work of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta, Inc. We are a 34-year-old organization that focuses on mentoring and making a difference in the community. We are a volunteer-led member organization with a roster that begins with Hammer and Hank Aaron and ends with Ambassador Young. And we have a lot of legends and titans of industry in between. And the common theme amongst these men is that we all came together to lock arms and truly make a difference to impact our community through mentoring, because what they see is what they will be. We appreciate all of the support that we've received throughout the years and in 2020. But unfortunately, we've had to cancel 3 of our biggest fundraisers for the year. That would be our 100 Honors, the Celebration Bowl, and Divots and Divas. And so as an organization, we need your help. We need more help. If you want us to continue to provide the programming that we've been delivering to our young people, if you want us to continue to deliver on that promise that we've made to positively impact the community by making a difference in the lives of the young people in these communities that are often left behind, these vulnerable young people, please support our organization. You can go to our website, you can make a donation there, you can connect with our members, you can call our office, and we will be happy to have you in the fold with us, supporting us, investing in us, so that we can do the same for the young people that we serve and this community that we serve.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is great to be with you one more time for our latest installment of Let's Talk Leadership. For those that are new to this event, it is a discussion around the leadership journey of a distinguished guest so that our young people, our scholars in high school, college, can learn a little bit from someone that has been on this leadership journey and hopefully help them navigate their future leadership journey. Today is one that is bittersweet for me because it is the last one with me as the chairman of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta, Inc. Join us tomorrow for the installation of our new chairman, Keith Millner, and that will be on at noon on our YouTube channel. So you don't want to miss it. Had a great slate of speakers and nice presentation for you. So please join us for that tomorrow at noon on our YouTube Live. Tonight, we are hosting our virtual fundraiser, Investing in Our Communities virtual gala that will feature the Fly Jock, Tom Joyner, feature Tommy Smith of the 1968 Olympic Games. We'll be honoring Microsoft Corporation. We'll be honoring Grant Hill as he takes over USA Basketball, and we'll be honoring Jasmine Crow of Gooder for the work that she does in the community. And we have a great slate of events, great slate of speakers for that as well. We have some of our students talking to you. I'll explain some of the work that we've been able to accomplish over the last year or so. So please join us 6 p.m. on our YouTube channel for our Investing in Our Communities virtual gala as well. So I mentioned that this is a little bit bitter because it's my last one as the chairman of the organization, but it is also sweet because I get the opportunity to introduce you to my successor that I've been working with for the last several years. We came into the organization together in 2015. Keith has been the treasurer of the organization, and he's been the chair-elect for the last 2 years. And so I am confident that he is going to take this organization to higher heights as he assumes the mantle of leadership for this organization. And so I will do a brief introduction with Keith, and then we will jump into it and talk a little bit of leadership. So thanks for joining us today, Keith, and I'm so happy to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chairman Gooch.
All right. So Keith is co-founder of Coaching Catalyst LLC, a boutique consultancy and executive coaching firm. His corporate and entrepreneurial career spans over 35 years in diverse industries, including president, Nationwide Financial Network, president, Georgia Market for Certus Bank, executive vice president, COO of Invest Atlanta, and principal strategic partnerships, North Highland Consulting. As an executive coach, consultant, and thought leader, he holds the following distinguished credentials: authored micro lessons on macro effects of microaggressions, courageous conversations on racism, attracting, retaining Black talent, institutional strategies to combat racism, and rethinking the business case for diversity and inclusion. He's a certified master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP coaching, and timeline therapy from the Institute of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, professional certified coach, International Coach Federation, pro ski change management, crucial conversations and negotiation strategies. He has an MBA in marketing from the University of North Carolina's Keenan Flagler School of Business and a BA degree in economics from Guilford College, where the brother played quarterback when he was on the campus there. He's a certificate in information technology business strategy at TIAS Business School from the University of Navarra in Barcelona, Spain. His community leadership includes serving as 100 Black Men of Atlanta, serving on the 100 Black Men of Atlanta Board of Directors and as chair-elect since 2019. 100 Black Men of America Leadership Institute chair from National, the Housing Authority of Fulton County Commissioner and board vice chair, National Black MBA Association of Atlanta former board member, Leadership Atlanta alum, the class of 2018, the United Way of Atlanta VIP alumni, and founding member, Atlanta Symphony Orchestra Advisory Board. His personal mission is to be a change agent, equipping people with the mental, spiritual, and physical tools they need to excel. Again, he's a former collegiate athlete. He's an avid golfer who has completed several full and half marathons, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, navigated Class 5 rapids, and is a certified scuba diver. So we got a real daredevil on our hands today and a great leader. And so, and he also is the owner of Jersey Mike's over in Edgewood Retail District. So go support Jersey Mike's and support Keith along the way. So Keith, glad to have you. And let's talk a little leadership, brother.
Absolutely. Let's dive into it.
All right. So tell us a little bit about your current professional journey. How did you end up here where you are today in your career journey?
Well, it certainly has not been a linear path. It has taken a lot of twists and turns, ups and downs, switchbacks, to use a mountaineering term. But essentially, as I matriculated through my corporate career, from being an individual contributor to being a supervisor to being a manager, what I learned was that I really had a passion for developing people, for putting together high-performing teams, for trying to really understand what motivated individuals and what motivated teams to go above and beyond what they thought they could do. And as a result of that passion and that curiosity, I really started to invest a lot of time studying different leadership models. I actually became a bit of a nerd for all things leadership. A lot of people will read adventure novels or mysteries or romance novels. I get a lot of joy reading biographies and different things related to leadership strategy, leadership development. So over the course of my professional career, I really spent more time on the people side of the equation, and ultimately became a executive coach about 20 years ago when the industry was just getting started. Continue to develop and build my skills and my competency in that regard. And about 5 years ago, myself and my wife launched Coaching Catalyst, the executive and professional development consultancy.
Okay, so now, when you were younger, is this where you envision yourself being as an entrepreneur with your coaching and consulting business, entrepreneur with Jersey Mike's, or where did you see yourself when you were young, Keith?
Not at all, Chairman Gooch, not at all. In fact, I tell this story quite often. When I went to the University of North Carolina, Keenan Flagler School of Business, I was fortunate enough to be admitted directly from undergrad. So I didn't have any quote unquote full-time work experience, as did most of my classmates. And in one particular class, the professor asked everyone what they wanted to do upon graduation. And there were the typical things like investment banking, consulting, brand management. But a number of my classmates said this word that I had never heard before, and the word was entrepreneur. So as a 22-year-old coming off a small farming community in rural North Carolina, I'd never heard the word entrepreneur. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. So when it got to me, I just, in a very naive fashion, said, well, I don't know what an entrepreneur is, but when I graduate, I'm going to get a job. And that, I think, is a manifestation of the lack of exposure that I had growing up and just my limited mindset. So my journey to entrepreneurship has been a long and winding road. And over time, I started to have more exposure to different types of entrepreneurs, whether they were, startups or business owners, individuals who had purchased existing businesses, those who had gotten into the franchise arena, and then recently the technology arena. And just over time, my risk tolerance changed, and I really became to embrace the independence and having confidence in the skills, knowledge, and abilities that I had acquired over the arc of my professional career, and said, I think I can do this on my own and make a decent living.
Was there a moment when the light bulb went off and you said this was the right fit, or did it build over a long period of time?
It was both. It actually built over a long period of time. I'll tell you, one of the big inflection moments for me was probably about 15 years ago. Up until that point, for whatever reason, my definition of entrepreneur was someone who came up with some bright idea that had never been done before, kind of a white page orientation, blue sky, if you will. Someone had to go out and raise money to get funding, and none of those things really fit with my skill set or even with my personality. But then some friends of mine came to me and said, hey, we're going to look at some franchise opportunities. And, do you want to invest? And I said, sure. And so that opened my eyes to the world of franchising. And from that point on, then I became aware of the fact that there are any number of small business owners out there who have existing operations, and at some point they decide to sell, they decide to exit. So you didn't have to start something from scratch. You didn't have to have that, that innovation idea. You could just invest and buy an existing business, which I knew how to do because of my corporate career. I understood finance, accounting, marketing, supply chain, operations, all of that stuff. The things that you have to apply, those skills that you have to apply, whether you're running a 2-person shop or you're running a 200-person shop. So yeah, there was definitely an aha moment about 15 years ago that, I didn't have to come up with a better way to slice bread or to reinvent the light bulb in order to be an entrepreneur.
So I know your days are sort of action packed. So what is a day in the life of Keith Millner like?
Wow. Well, I believe in the power of positive habits. And I believe in the power of routine, if it's the right routine. And this comes from all the years that I played organized sports. I'm a firm believer in the old notion that, you play like you practice. So every morning I typically am up between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. I go through a morning meditation ritual. I do some stretching, grab a cup of coffee, and then I go work out for about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm usually at my desk around 7:30, returning emails, prioritizing how my day is going to go. And from that point on, it's just a question of whether it's, dealing with clients, existing clients, or doing business development. I may have to run over to the store to make sure that, everything is set for the day. Oftentimes we have individuals who will not call in or call out sick. And maybe I have to go make sandwiches for a couple of hours just to until the next shift comes in. I'm back in the afternoon. I normally don't eat lunch. I usually will grab a snack somewhere around 2 or 3 o'clock, continue with client engagements. And I usually knock off around 6 o'clock, try to go for a walk, try to take a break, spend some time with my wife. And usually around 9:30 or 10 o'clock, I'm back at my desk and I'm trying to get in another 3 hours preparing for the next day, whether that's writing letters or putting together presentations or reading. So my days usually go from about, 5:30, 5:45 until around midnight every day.
What do you enjoy most about your day?
The variety, absolutely the variety. At any given moment, I might be working with a CEO on a strategic issue and providing my perspective and advice. As I said, then I may have to run over to the Jersey Mike's location, put on an apron, make up a couple of subs, and maybe sweep the floor, check inventory, come back home, do some reading, and then talking with maybe some of the constituents with the 100. Putting together plans and working on fundraising, whatever the case may be. But I am a lifelong learner. I'm not the type of guy that can just sit and do a routine, day after day, hour after hour. So I love the flexibility. I love the mental challenges. I love being able to flex and stay engaged on a number of different fronts, whether it's manual labor or actually sitting and trying to use some of the intellectual horsepower that I've attained over the years to help someone else become a more effective leader.
What role did mentors play in your professional journey, and how did you get the most out of those mentoring relationships?
I'm sure, like a lot of people, I have been directly and positively impacted by a number of mentors over the years. Most importantly and most impactfully, when I was at Guilford College. Guilford is a unique institution. It's a small liberal arts Quaker institution with only about 1,500 kids when I matriculated there. And there were only about 55 African-American students in the organization. And I was fortunate enough that Guilford had invested in a Black psychologist, a gentleman by the name of Dr. James K. Gripper. And Grip actually worked with me from the time that I was a freshman until the time that I was a senior, pouring positive thoughts, reaffirming thoughts into my head. He would tell me at the beginning of every session, at the end of every session, Keith, you are predestined for success. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what he was doing, but he essentially reprogrammed me and gave me the confidence and the tools to be able to go forward, take risks, to meet people, to lean into the God-given talents that I had. And he just really molded me into a young man who was genuinely confident and gave me the tools to go forward. In my professional journey, I've had, minority and majority people take an interest in me, take me by the hand, point out when I was failing, when I wasn't doing the right things, as well as giving me pats on the back and encouragement when I was doing the right thing. People who pointed me in a different direction and helped me expand my thinking. So mentoring and mentors have been critical to helping me achieve the success that I've achieved thus far and continues. I have a number of different mentors now from a number of different walks of life. We tend to speak, if not weekly, then at least once a month or once a quarter. And it's the same topics. What are you doing? What risk are you taking? Are you investing? Are you putting the time in to get better? Are you networking? Are you giving back? A lot of the same questions that we tend to ask our mentees in our day-to-day work as 100 Black men.
So let's turn the tables a little bit. As a mentee, you mentioned your mentors. As a mentee, what did you do to get the most out of those relationships? Or if it's a better question, what would you advise mentees to do that say, hey, I have a mentor, I don't know how to, work on a relationship, how to build a relationship. I don't know what to make of this person that said they want to mentor me. What should they be doing to get the most out of the mentor-mentee relationship?
Sure. Great question. First thing is listen. I mean, you really have to listen and, take it in. Perspectives are important. Experience is important. Knowledge is important. And generally speaking, mentors are going to bring all of that to the table. But if you are so arrogant or cocky or egotistical that you think you know it all, or you are rejecting what they're telling you because it's so foreign to you, then you're not going to really benefit or maximize the opportunity. So first and foremost, listen. Right on the heels of listening is trust. Trust what they're telling you is valuable. Trust that they have your best interest in heart. Trust that they have walked the path that you probably want to walk or may walk one day. And there is a lot of knowledge that they can share with you that will prevent you from having to make the same mistakes that they had to make. And then third is be proactive. Don't just sit back and wait for the mentor to call you. Engage whenever you have questions, whenever you have doubts, whenever you have thoughts about what you could do or what you should be doing, or when you're forced to make some decisions. And it could be something as simple as which AP courses to take in high school, which college to go to, which job interview to prepare for, or so on and so forth. Proactively reach out, give the mentor the opportunity to share with you. So listen, trust, and proactively reach out. And I think if you do that as a mentee, then that will put you in a position to really optimize the relationship with your mentor.
So we talked a little bit about entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So you dove into the deeper end of entrepreneurship right before this pandemic hit, with the store, opening the store. So based off of your experience, what characteristics does someone need if they want to be an entrepreneur?
Another great question, because again, I never thought that I was the type of entrepreneur that I would read about in Fast Company magazine or Inc. or any of those kind of articles that talked about, the risk taker, the visionary, the unbridled optimism that, I can make it happen. In MBA school, they actually teach you to be risk averse. They actually teach you how to identify and mitigate risk, as opposed to, how to seek opportunities and maximize those opportunities. So through my journey personally and with my investors, I would say the first thing is you got to prepare. You got to do your homework. You got to do your research. You've got to learn what it is that you're going into and what it takes, what other people have done to be successful. And that's whether you're starting your own business or if you're going into a franchise. Because even though franchises, have a model, a proven model, not all franchisees are successful. There are things that certain franchisees do and that make them more successful. And there are things that franchisees don't do. And sometimes it causes them not to be successful. So first of all, do your research. Second of all, you've got to prepare financially. Even if you are in a good situation in terms of your day job, or maybe you came into some money via inheritance or whatever, the fact of the matter is that if you're going to grow and expand, you're going to need access to capital. And in that access to capital, people are going to be looking at you not as an individual, they're going to be looking at you as a business risk. Okay. So whether we're talking about your credit score, whether we're talking about your cash flow, whether we're talking about your financial reserves, or your ability to actually go and get money from non-traditional sources, you've got to be prepared to have multiple streams of income or multiple financing sources. We ran into a situation when we tried to open our first store, just because it happened to fall into the middle of a pandemic. We actually were turned down by several major banks. Many of them, or most of them, had reasons. It had reasons to do with the pandemic, because we were a startup. We were in the QSR, quick serve restaurant business, and we had some construction. And those are three things that bankers tend to shy away from because the risk of default is pretty high. But collectively, myself and my partners, we had over 100 years of corporate experience. All of us had credit scores that were north of 700, 750. On paper, we felt we were, a very, very low risk, but the bank didn't see it that way. So we actually went through two major banks who turned us down. They danced with us for several months, and then we got to the finish line. They pulled the financing, and we had to pivot and had to go find, a non-traditional financer. But if we had not prepared, if we did not have all of our quote unquote ducks in a row, and if we didn't have the perseverance, it would have been real easy just to quit and throw our hands up and say, well, here we are again, a group of Black people being the victims of institutional racism, because there's no reason we shouldn't get financing. But that wasn't our mentality. That wasn't our attitude. When one door shut, we just went to the next door and went to the next door and went to the next door. And just to show you how things work, we're going to be opening 2 more stores in 2021. And we already have the financing for both of those stores secured, and we haven't even applied yet. So, we went from, struggling literally at the last minute to find somebody who would bank us, to now having, multiple financing sources basically competing for our business in less than 12 months. Wow.
That's awesome. So the great Mike Tyson once said that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Exactly. And we know this pandemic came along and it was a punch in the face for everybody. And so what were some of the obstacles that you had to manage through in your entrepreneurial journey when the pandemic hit, and how did you navigate them?
Well, again, great question, and they were numerous. The one that immediately comes to mind again is the courtship that we had with the financing institutions and how they strung us along for literally months and then pulled the rug right from under us, right before closing. So that one sticks out. The second one is just the process. I mean, you have to get a number of different permits to even start the construction, on your new place. And we had to work with the city of Atlanta, and the city of Atlanta shut down. And so their traditional permitting process was turned upside down. So we had to go to a third party inspector. We had to find creative ways to get our plans in front of the people who made the approvals and to actually get the physical documents, because they really weren't structured to provide online access. Some of these documents have to have official city seals on them. And there's a sequence of things that you have to do. You have to, it's kind of one domino has to fall before you can move to the next domino. So every single day it was a challenge in terms of making a phone call, asking for a favor, begging for somebody to literally go down to City Hall, go into their office, open up an email and give us a yes response. And then, can we meet you on the corner of MLK and Edgewood to physically hand over the documents? I mean, it was things that we never anticipated. And of course, nothing that the franchisor had anticipated as well. So there was no manual on how to work with, the regulators and with the inspectors to do the things that we had to do in order to get the store open. And then the last one has just been hiring people. It has been a constant challenge to recruit and train workers to come into the store. The turnover in the QSR business is normally about 80%. Since the pandemic has hit and the enhanced unemployment benefits and other things that are going on, that number has skyrocketed to about 92, 93%. So just having enough people to keep the store open is a constant challenge.
Are there any lessons that you learned during the pandemic that will outlast the pandemic?
Absolutely. You can never be too prepared. You just never can be too prepared. I mean, if you think you've got 2 financing sources that are lined up, go find 2 more, because chances are 2 of the 4, 3 of the 4 for some reason might fall through. That's number one. Number 2, surround yourself with like-minded people. I have 3 other partners, and each of those individuals are accomplished in their own right. All of them, with the exception of myself, are serial entrepreneurs. They also have very distinguished careers in the corporate world. And we marvel. I mean, we meet, twice a week. We meet on Wednesday nights, and then we have a long meeting on Sunday nights. And we actually sit down and kind of go through our business plan. We go through the prior week's sales. We look at everything from an operational standpoint, and we marvel. We said, how could one individual keep track of all of this stuff? Because all 4 of us have MBAs. So I would not be in this position if it weren't for my partners and, the partnerships that we have. Again, there are people of like-minded values, of like-minded character. We trust each other explicitly. Everybody comes to the table. We check our egos at the door. Everybody works. I mean, we don't have any prima donnas in the group. And so if you can find people like that, like-minded people, you can really go a lot further. There's no way I would be able to say that I am a Jersey Mike's owner, multi-store owner, or a franchise owner if it weren't for my partners.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about the 100.
Sure.
In your own words, tell us about your sort of road to the chairmanship and how did you get there? What was your sort of arc with the organization? And then what's been the most rewarding part of your time with 100?
Great. Well, Chairman Gooch, as you indicated, you and I came in together in the class of 2015. I was extremely humbled, to be accepted into the organization. Prior to my applying, I had actually gotten a list of the members at the time. I think it was around 2013 or 2014. And that list numbered about 140, 150 people. And I actually went down the list and counted, and there were at least 50 people on that list that I either knew personally or knew of. And every single one of those people, I truly admired. I mean, they were captains of industry. They were successful entrepreneurs. They were community leaders. They were politicians. They were educational leaders. And I just said, you know what, if these individuals have selected the 100 to volunteer and to give their time, talent, and treasure, then certainly it's an organization that is worthy of mine if they will have me. So I was extremely humbled to be accepted into the organization. Had no real designs on doing anything other than serving, giving back. I really wanted to get into the mentoring aspect of it, and I really wanted to work with the emerging. But at the chairman at the time asked me to spend time on the strategic planning committee because he looked at my background and said, we need help over here. And so I said, sure. And from there, they asked me to put together the first member offsite, or it wasn't the first, but it was a member offsite that was coming up. So I organized that. And as you indicated, we had a changeover, and I was asked to become asked to become treasurer. And so at each step of the way, someone saw something in me and said, hey, you've got a gift to give. We need your talents and your expertise over here, over there. And I was certainly willing because I wanted to give back. In addition to the mentoring, I wanted to help, propel the organization in any way I could. And so it was during my time as treasurer that I actually started to think about, maybe taking on a greater leadership role, and, do a lot of soul searching and reflection and prayer. Talked it over with my wife and said, look, if I do this, it's a 6-year commitment. As you know, our process, which is a brilliant process, the chair-elect serves for 2 years, then they serve as chair for 2 years, and then you serve as chair emeritus for 2 years. So it was going to be a 6-year commitment. And one of the things that I'm all about is, being a man of my word and doing things 100%. And I said, okay, if I'm going to go down this path, I got to make a 6-year commitment. And there's no way I could do that without the love and support of my wife. And so she said, yes, if that's what you want to do, I'll stand behind you, and decided to run and was fortunate enough to be elected.
Great story. So what has been the most rewarding part so far?
I tell you, it's been a number of different things. I mean, quite frankly, just every time that I'm interacting with my mentees, be they, the best academy students or my emerging mentees, or just, other people in the organization who will have an opportunity to call and ask a question. It's those relationships, because I think many of us take for granted the things that we can give back, even if it's just an encouraging word. I can't tell you how many times people have said, hey, Keith, I was feeling down that day, and we got on a Zoom call and I saw your smile and it lifted me, and you said something that put me in a different frame of mind or whatever. And I was completely unaware, right? So just being around, again, like-minded people who have the same passion for the mission of the organization, and having an opportunity just to give back in ways, quite frankly, that oftentimes I'm not even aware, is that constant reinforcement that I'm doing the right thing, I'm where I'm supposed to be. So that's probably number one. And number two. Number three is watching the evolution of the organization. I mean, under your leadership, under Larry Johnson's leadership, some of the trials and tribulations that the organization has gone through, and every organization goes through evolutionary changes. And that's one of the things that's challenging about being a leader. You have to be able to flex. Sometimes you have to be an autocratic leader. Sometimes you have to be more of a delegator. Sometimes you have to be a visionary and excite people. Sometimes you got to roll up your sleeves and get down into the tactics and just get your hands dirty. There's no one leadership style, but since we've been involved in the organization, we've gone from really struggling, quite frankly, with where we were landing from a financial standpoint. We had some attrition in our membership. We had some turnover on the executive director's position, to now, under your leadership, being in the strongest financial position that the organization has probably been in the past decade, having upwards to 175 financial engaged members, having a robust diversity of programs that went beyond kind of our core offerings. The organization is just flourishing, and so I'm excited to be able to step in an organization that has got some wind at its back, got a lot of momentum, and hopefully I can continue to build upon that momentum and multiply the successes with the new board members, with the new committee chairs, and build upon the successes that you've ushered in.
Appreciate that, brother. So it sounds like my next question was going to be, tell us about your leadership philosophy, but it sounds like your leadership philosophy is whatever philosophy is needed in that situation to get the most out of the folks that you're leading.
Absolutely. I mean, I think leadership is an overused word, but it's a very important word. And there are, if you talk to organizational behaviorists or social psychologists, they'll tell you that there's 10 different types of leaders out there, leadership styles or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that there are some core tenets and core principles that all effective leaders demonstrate at some point or another in their leadership journey. And those three core things are character. I mean, you have to be an individual of strong character. Otherwise, people are not going to respect you. They're not going to follow you. The second one is competence. You have to have competence. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be able to lead from a basis of integrity, a basis of fact, a basis of skill, so that people respect your point of view and respect your opinion. And the third thing is communication. You have to be a good communicator. You have to be able to listen. You have to have the ability to discern when people are giving you advice that you need to listen to, as opposed to the direction that you think you need to go in. You have to be able to take that information, put it in a manner that other people can consume it. You have to be able to communicate in a very enthusiastic and consistent way. Adults tend to need to hear things 10 or 12 times before it resonates with them. You can't just say it one time and walk away. You can't just send one email and say, hey, I got that out there. You really have to be dedicated and committed to constantly communicating, and not only good news, but not so good news, because life does not always come wrapped in a bow, with Skittles sprinkled on top. So if you're only the individual who only brings good news and you never bring any bad news, your credibility is going to be questioned off the bat. So character, competence, and communication, I think, are three of the core behavioral elements of any successful leader. And beyond that, it really depends on the situation. I've had the benefit over the arc of my career to lead organizations through economic bust and through economic bear markets and through economic bull markets. And I tell you, it's a different skill set when you're struggling to keep clients, when your top line revenue is being squeezed by competition or regulatory changes, and you really have to focus on the expense side, as opposed to when you've got a product or a service that is in high demand and you can just sell just by showing up. It's very different in terms of what you have to do as leaders. It's very different when you are in a situation when there's no clear strategy in terms of where the organization needs to go, and trying to put something in place that will resonate not only with your employees or with your volunteers, but also resonates with the marketplace. And it can be lonely out there because you can have 15 different people with 15 different points of view. But if you're sitting in the big chair, if you're the leader, you're the one who has to make that decision. And you have to make it in a competent manner where people really believe that you have done the homework, you've done the research, you've talked to a number of people, and you have set a course that is the best possible course for the organization at that particular time. And just accept the fact that not everybody's going to get on board with you. But that's okay, because sooner or later, they'll come back around.
Yeah, I tell you, when I was the Student Bar Association president out of UGA Law, my roommate's dad was a state representative down at the Georgia State Legislature, and he said what he learned from his dad is you will never make everybody like you. Don't even try. What you need to do is focus on making sure a majority of the people like you a majority of the time. Because that majority isn't going to like you all the time. They're going to fall off, but you just got to replace the ones that fall off and ensure you can keep a majority of the people that like you a majority of the time.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I tell my mentees and other people who ask the question, it's not about being popular. To me, it's about being respected. Popularity is fleeting. I mean, if you want to be popular, run for Mr. Congeniality, or I don't know, become a paparazzi. I don't know what it is, but if you're going to be a leader, it's not a popularity contest, because inevitably you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And to your point, there's always going to be people who disagree with you, and you can't satisfy everybody. You can't make everybody happy, and that's not really the mission. That's not really the goal. The goal is to make the best decisions with the information that you have available at that time, always keeping the mission of the organization first and foremost, being consistent with the values of the organization, being consistent with your own values. And if you can do that over time, your decisions are probably going to pan out more times than not. And when they don't pan out, at least people understand that you were coming from a basis of integrity. You were coming from a basis of what was in the best interest of the organization. And with that, they can respect your decision and respect the fact that nobody gets it right all the time.
Correct. Yep. And so now you mentioned you were a leadership nerd at a certain period. Were there any books that stand out that you would recommend to people that are beginning their leadership journey or on their leadership journey?
Absolutely. I think you can see in the background, and this is not a virtual background. This is actually a small portion of my library. I started my leadership journey by reading a book called The Road Less Traveled by F. Scott Peck. And that book essentially was about leadership of self. The behavioral theorists will tell you that there are 3 meta levels of leadership, and those 3 levels are leadership of self, leadership of others, and leadership of organizations or enterprises. And at each level of those leaderships, it requires a different level of competency and different skills and abilities in order to be an effective leader. But the core is leadership of self. And within leadership of self, it starts with your values. Do you know what your values are? Are you making decisions that are consistent with your values? And if you can do that, that gives you a North Star. That gives you a foundation from which you can grow. And then when you move into leadership of others, it becomes an opportunity to then identify what motivates other individuals and making sure that you don't assume that what motivates you is also going to be what motivates other people. Some people like the pat on the back. They like the public adoration. Some people are motivated by challenge. Some people are motivated by trust. So you have to really get to know the other people that are reporting to you or the people that are following you and really tune in to what it is that motivates them. And then having the ability to put them in the position to be successful. Many of us come to the table with lots of different skills, knowledge, and abilities, but there are certain things that we enjoy doing more than others. And it doesn't mean that we can't do other things. So for example, when I was asked to be treasurer, I'm not a numbers guy, but people think I am just because I used to work in the bank. That's really not where my passion is. I have to work hard to understand the financial statements and to keep all those numbers in my head. However, that's what was needed at the time. And I was asked to do it and I was happy to do it. But as a leader, if you are putting together consistently high-performing teams, then chances are you know the people on your team well enough to be able to know not only what they're good at, but what they're passionate about. And if you can put them in that position where they can operate around their passions, then you're going to get a multiplier effect. They're going to go above and beyond what is necessary. And if you can get 5 or 6 or 7 people doing that, then you will have a high-performing team. And then leadership of enterprises and organizations then requires another level. And that's the level of being a visionary, right? Because typically you're going to have individuals who are taking care of the day-to-day. They're taking care of what's happening, what needs to happen next month, next quarter, maybe even for the next half year. Your role then is to anticipate what's going to be happening and what's going to be needed 12, 18, 24 months down the road, and to start to put strategies and tactics and resources in place to position the organization to continue to excel at a time in the future that your other leaders that report up to you are not even thinking about. So leadership of self, leadership of teams, and then leadership of organizations.
Okay. So, and I've said this before, I truly believe that leadership is a willingness to fail publicly, right? You're out front, things go bad, you get all the smoke, things go good, you have to distribute all the credit and make sure everyone else feels the love. And so, it's risky business because there's no cover. When you're in charge, there's no cover. If it goes bad, it's on you. So leading a bunch of alpha personalities in the 100, of course, will be a challenge that I know so well. Why do you want to do this? And what motivates you to deal with that daily grind of being a leader and managing the heat that will come with this role as the chairman of the 100?
Well, there's a couple of answers to that question. One, my first leadership opportunity was playing sports. I'll never forget it. I think I was 12 years old. I was at the local boys club. I went out to play football, and there were some adults standing on the sideline, and they were picking individual kids to be on their teams. And some guy picked me to be on his team, and he handed me the football and said, "You're going to be the quarterback." Now, I have no idea why. Out of all the kids, I mean, he could have said, "You're going to be the running back, you're going to be the tight end, you could be anything," but he handed me the football and said, "You're going to be the quarterback." And that was my first formal leadership role. And from that time, I have never shied away. I've always been attracted to leadership opportunities, not just in sports, but in business and in my philanthropic and community give back. So stepping into this leadership role with the 100 is just consistent with my past and with my journey. I don't see it as a grind. I don't really see it as work. It's something that I love doing just because I love the mission of the 100. I love what the 100 is all about. And yeah, you know, there are going to be a number of individuals who come to the table, you know, with a degree of success in their personal and professional lives. They're going to have strong opinions. They're going to be great communicators. And you know what? That's because I'm that guy, right? I'm that guy. So I get energized by being around other, you know, type A individuals, as long as, you know, again, we are coming to the table with the same mission, with the same goal in life. And that is to execute on the mission of the 100. And I'm perfectly okay with, you know, different points of views, different strategies, different tactics or whatever, because at the end of the day, we can agree to disagree. But as long as, you know, the common goal is continuing to execute on the mission, it's going to work out. So.
Okay. So then what's your vision for the 100 under your leadership? Like at the end of your 2-year term, what do you want the organization to look like? What would success look like for you?
Again, great question. And, you know, the people who came before us, Kevin, the people who framed the mission and framed the vision, you know, they were brilliant, because every time I read the vision of the organization to become the strongest, most self-reliant, African-American led volunteer organization in the city of Atlanta, that is a paraphrase of our vision. So what I would hope is that when my administration is over, that we are much further along in that path, again, building on the successes that you have. So specifically, I want to double the amount of revenue that we have in our investment accounts, in our reserves. I want to multiply the number of students that we can touch and impact, mentoring, not only by using our direct membership, but by, you know, bringing in like-minded organizations. So for example, I know Georgia Power has a commitment out there to have 5,000 mentors over the next 5 years. We are the preeminent mentoring organization, not only in the city, but in the region. And I would arguably say in the country, because the 100 of America has over 104 chapters around the United States and in the Caribbean and in Europe. So we have a model, a proven model that works. So I want to lean into that model. I want to lean into the collective success of 100 of America and the 100 of Atlanta, and be a thought leader and to be a catalyst for bringing other like-minded organizations, be they corporations or funders or nonprofits, into our fold and leverage our expertise and how we go to market. And then last and certainly not least, I want to multiply the member value proposition, because there are any number of reasons why an individual would choose to give their time, talent, and treasure to the 100. Not only about the mission itself, but also about professional growth and development, about being around other individuals who can take them to another level wherever they want to go, whether it's in the corporate world, in their corporate career, or in the entrepreneurial world, or whether they're looking to do something completely different and go into the philanthropic arena, or even in the world of politics. We have thought leaders and giants and experts in our membership ranks across every profession you can imagine, across every walk of life. And so there's a tremendous amount of untapped intellectual capital, intellectual property that resides within our existing membership. And I want to be the leader that puts policies and procedures in place that unleashes that and multiplies the value of being a member of the 100 above and beyond our commitment to serving and beyond our commitment to giving back. When you read my bio, you mentioned my personal mission statement. And so this is a manifestation of my personal mission statement, which is to be a change agent, giving people the physical, mental, and spiritual tools they need to excel. And so I want to apply that across the existing and future membership of the 100 so that everybody can excel in whatever arena of their choosing.
Man, you are good. You read my mind. I was about to ask you, what did you want your legacy to be as a leader? But boom, you just gave it to us. You just served it up. So thank you for that. So
Absolutely.
now let's go into sort of a little bit of a rapid fire session on just leadership, right?
Mhm.
What's one of your greatest successes as a leader, and what's one thing that you would like to have back and do over again?
I think one of the greatest successes was during my tenure as president of Nationwide Financial Network. That was a $2 billion organization, about 1,800 individuals that was in my organization. And when I took it over, it was floundering. There was a perception inside the organization that we were actually losing money, which actually turned out not to be true. Morale was extremely low. The CEO and the board were really, 1 or 2 quarters away from shutting down the organization and selling off the assets and divesting everything. And so one of the first things that I did was that I did not accept on face value the SWOT analysis that was handed to me. I did my own research. I dug into the numbers. I actually hired a forensic accounting firm to come in and help me unravel the finances. And what we found was that not only were they wrong, they were 100% wrong. This division was actually a cash cow for the corporation. It was just some internal decisions that had been made about how they chose to allocate expenses and how they chose to distribute the profits that caused there to be this, I'm going to say this urban myth that the organization was losing money. So I was able to fundamentally change the narrative and change the fact base about what was really happening. And I used that to then embolden our employees and embolden our leaders to say that, we can take this even to another level now that people understand that we are not a drain on company resources. And then I challenged everybody to really question their commitment to the organization because there was a lot of, I'm going to call it rear view mirror thinking. There was a lot of finger pointing and a lot of, well, in the past, we used to do this, in the past, we used to do that, and we're not doing that anymore. So one day I just came up with this little quote that I used to kind of negate that negative thinking. And my little quote was, well, that sounds like a BK kind of an order. And BK does not stand for Burger King. It stands for before Keith. All right. So if you want to continue to look in the past and deal with what happened in the past, then that's okay. But we're going forward, right? Because that's some BK stuff. All right. And I'm not about, before Keith. I'm here now. This is where we're going. This is the vision. And we can all be more prosperous. We can all make more money. We can all, achieve our career objectives if we pull together and move in this new direction. And so that was a huge cultural change that wound up actually having business impacts as well. So I'm really most proud of that. On the flip side, I will tell you that, probably one of my biggest career failures was in that same organization because I was very, very task oriented. And that was an organization that had deep cultural norms. And I was the first African-American to be hired in a P&L role from outside of the organization. I was the first Section 16 officer in the corporation. I was the first African-American SVP and president of a division. So I was an outsider. And even though, people respected my business acumen, they respected my passion, I was not one of them. And I had an attitude, quite frankly, that I didn't care. I didn't come there to be one of them. I came there to run a division. And ultimately that led to my ouster because the financial successes, the business successes that I was able to lead did not outweigh the culture. And I never accepted and never became part of the culture. And so it's a widely known quote, but I will tell people who are listening now, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And if you can't tie in and understand the culture of the organization that you're trying to lead, you will not be successful. You will not be successful. And like I said, even though I had a great run and I put a lot of points on the scoreboard, at the end of the day, I was voted off the island. So that was a failure on my part.
Powerful words. And I always ask that question because I want folks that are tuning in to understand it's not if you will fail, it's when you will fail. And we all have had those failures along the way, but look at us now. Like we made it through, we navigated, we overcame, and we're here now. So I want people to understand that there will be failures along the way, but it's just how do you deal with them and how do you navigate them? Couple quick questions before we wrap up here. So say you have an underperformer on your team. How do you motivate them?
Well, as I said before, I mean, I always start with the individual. I usually just sit down and literally just try to have a very frank, candid conversation and just ask them repeatedly in a number of different ways. What is it that you want? What is it that you want to do? Is it money? Are you in the right role? Do you want to do something else? Do you want to be in a different division? Because everybody has gifts, everybody has talents. And sometimes it's just a question of trying to find what that talent is or put them in a position to be successful. But sometimes, they don't want to be successful. Life circumstances, or they change their mind or whatever. But I always start with where the individual is. And then I transition to what the organization needs, right? And I say, okay, this is what we need. This is what you have. If there's a match, we can probably find a way to work it out. But if there isn't a match, then I go to my default phrase and I just say something to the effect of, Kevin, I'm going to do you and me a favor, and I'm going to free up your future. I'm going to give you the opportunity to go seek that which you desire most, because what that is clearly is not here with me and with our team. So how can I help you transition?
Okay, so I know in your history of leadership roles, people firing at you, catching all the heat, catching all the smoke, you've dealt with some people that were just incredibly difficult for no reason. So how do you deal with difficult people and difficult conversations? I think that difficult conversation you kind of handled in the last one, but how do you just deal with difficult people? Like, they may not be someone that reports to you, so you have to deal with them. How do you manage them?
Yeah. Again, another great question. So there was a time in my life when I was really focused on learning a particular style of martial arts, and I settled on this style called Aikido, Aikido. And Aikido is a non-confrontational, passive type of martial art. And the first thing they teach you in Aikido is a concept called blend with. So whenever you are confronted with someone, whenever someone is opposite of you, you try to get on their side. It's kind of hard to punch somebody when you're standing beside them. Just think about it. Try to punch somebody that's standing beside you. So I use that as a metaphor for dealing with difficult people. I always try to find a way to put myself on their side, whether I agree with their point of view or not, right? Because if I can do that, then immediately it's going to de-escalate the situation, right? You talked earlier about, one of the great leadership books that I've read, and Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is another one of those that's on my list. And one of the habits of highly successful people is to seek first to understand before being understood, right? So it takes a little bit of time. It takes a hell of a lot of patience. It takes a hell of a lot of swallowing of your ego. But if you can try to put yourself in that person's shoes, to try to understand where they're coming from, to try to stand beside them and see things from their perspective, oftentimes it will disarm them, because they're always expecting the pushback. They're always expecting, and they're preparing for the counter, right? And if you don't give them anything to push against, it's very difficult to have an argument with yourself, right? So ultimately, I try to disarm them. I try to get on the same page with them. And then if there is an opportunity, and I'm going to say sometimes there isn't always, but if there's an opportunity to put them in charge of the very thing that they're railing about, so that they have some ownership, then they have to look at themselves and say, oh my God, what I've been saying, this path that I've been articulating, or this hell that I've been raising, really is not productive. It really changes the whole dynamic. So it's about giving up control. It's about being vulnerable, and it's about trying to swallow your own pride and ego to put yourself in their position, with the whole purpose of really not trying to neutralize them, but trying to find a way to engage them on their terms, so that they can then give their gifts to the organization or to the problem. And the challenge with all of that is it takes time. That's typically not a one conversation type of process. It's a multi-conversation process. It's a multi-touch point process. So as a leader, you're going to have to deal with the crap over that period of time until you can actually take those steps. But that's usually what I try to do.
Very insightful and beneficial. Very insightful. So my last question for you is, I guess you would say it's a two-part question. You have a college student that is embarking on their leadership journey. You have a 30-year-old young professional that's embarking on their leadership journey. What advice would you give to that college student about being an effective leader? What advice would you give to that young professional about being an effective leader? And it may be the same, but what advice would you give those two people?
Sure. So for the college student, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of networking. Relationships. I mean, build relationships, build personal credibility with people before you need them. Give 3 times as much as you ask. Volunteer, ask how I can help. Do you need somebody to come in and do some work? Do you need me to do some research? What is it that I can do to help you? You want to build those relationships, not only with your peers, but with people who are already in positions that you ultimately may want to go into, and stay connected with them. Once a month, just send them a note saying, hey, I'm just touching base. I had a really good semester. I got 2 A's and 2 B's. I really should have gotten 4 A's, but whatever. Just continue to build that relationship and ask for advice. Hey, I'm thinking about taking these AP courses. What do you think? I'm thinking about applying for this internship. What do you think? So as a college student, start to build that habit and that discipline of building your network, right? And don't let it go. Don't just do it for a semester or for a year and then drop off and get all involved in everything that you're involved in. Be disciplined about it, because at the end of the day, it's people who are going to open doors for you. It's people who are going to shut doors for you. It's people who are going to put in a word for you when you need it and you don't even know. It's people who are going to say something negative about you that kept you from an opportunity that you didn't even know why you didn't get the opportunity. So build those relationships, right? And then for the 30-year-old, it's take risk. Take risk. What you think is a safe course of action probably isn't, right? If you don't put yourself in a position to grow and develop, then you're going to go through life, with onesies and twosies. It's kind of the difference between an incremental attitude and an exponential attitude. You mentioned it earlier in terms of a growth mindset, right? When you're young, when you're in your 30s, you've got, if you want, you've got another 25 years of productive work experience ahead of you. So what difference does it make if you take 1 or 2 years off to go back and get your MBA, or take 4 or 5 years off to go back to get your PhD, or step out of that great corporate job because you've got this great idea for a new app that's going to change the way people interact with, I don't know, whatever. And so go for it. Take the risk, because the biggest risk is not taking a risk, right? There's an old saying that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. So think you can and go for it, because the worst thing that could happen is that you fail. And from failure, you gain a lot of experience so that you will be better prepared the next time an opportunity comes along, and you'll know what not to do that next time.
Wow. Well, this has been great, man. Anything else for the good of the order?
Hey, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. And again, whether you're talking about Chairman Gooch and his approach, or my approach, or people who've come before us, there's a lot of different ways to be successful. Just find your passion, find your values, go for it. And remember, if you don't set really, really big, audacious goals, then whatever you achieve is probably going to be less than what it could have been. What's the old saying? Shoot for the stars. And if you land on the moon, then you're still far above where everybody else would have thought you could have gotten to be. So be bold and go for it.
Well, in closing, join us tonight, 6 p.m. YouTube channel, 100 Black Men of Atlanta YouTube channel. There's a lot of great content there, but join us there tonight for our Investing in Our Communities virtual gala, where we'll be honoring Tom Joyner, Tommy Smith, Microsoft Corporation, Grant Hill, Jasmine Crow. We will be hearing from some of our students, and we will give you a breakdown of some of the stuff that we've been able to accomplish over the last year and a half. You don't want to miss it. Join us tomorrow for the installation of this brother, Keith Millner, the installation of Sid Barron as the chair-elect, and a couple other officers and directors of the 100 Black Men. That is at noon tomorrow on the same YouTube channel. A great program has been designed and put in place, and we would love for you to be a part of it with us. And Keith, I just want to say it has been a pleasure serving with you, brother, in the trenches together. I'll still be on the board and working with you going forward. I am always here, a resource, willing to help however you need me. Just let me know. I look forward to you taking the organization. We plugged the holes in the foundation. The house is no longer on fire. I look forward to you picking out some great paint, doing all the extra stuff, all the luxuries that we need in the house done, and taking us to a much higher level and helping us soar to new heights. And I am confident that at the end of your 2 years, we will be better off as an organization than we are right now. And so just looking forward to being rubbing elbows with you and working to make that happen. So good luck on this journey. Again, if you need me for anything, I am here to be supportive, and I wish you nothing but the best, brother.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.